I didn't hear Zaid's side of the story, I only heard Saad's side of the story. He was really worried that he wouldn't have anywhere to live. We talked online a lot about his grievance with his brother. It wasn't swearing and shouting names at each other, it was to the extent where they'd stopped talking to each other and they'd actually started to communicate through lawyers.
According to investigators, 2 days after his brother's murder, Zaid al-Hili went to his local Surrey police station to refute suggestions there was a feud between them.
I know Zaid said he loved his brother and that there were absolutely no problems between them, but this is for the investigators to find out.
Police uncover a string of disagreements between Saad and his brother Zaid. James Matthews' Skype conversations suggest the brothers did clash over their father's will, following his death in 2011.
Saad did mention that he thought there was discrepancies with the will. He thought that because his father was in Spain, somebody had taken a piece of paper, got him to sign it, and then would brought it back to write up the will, and Saad thought that was a bit irregular. He didn't show me that he challenged it, but I've since learned that he did challenge the will.
A month before he was killed, Saad took out a caveat on his father's will, meaning that the inheritance is frozen and the house can't be sold until the brothers' issues are resolved. Although there is no suggestion that Saad's brother Zaid was involved in any irregularities with his father's will, there does appear to have been a dispute over it.
There is a family disagreement on some inheritance. That is a fact, but if you go into any family, you'll find it very hard to find a family without any disagreement.
I spoke to Saad immediately the day before he went to France, and he was very cheerful, he was very happy. We spoke briefly about his brother, and it was really that bad that it can lead to this horrendous crime.
Zaid was the sort of guy who had one job forever and turned up and got a great suit at the time. It was just a very neat, simple, quiet, sheltered accountant.
For people close to the brothers, the feud is an irrelevance, but it still preoccupies the French investigators.
Would a brother, even if they hate each other, kill for inheritance? Well, no. But some people have so little self-control that if they consider the only solution is to kill, then they kill.
French investigators see Zaid as a possible suspect and are keen to put him under surveillance and submit him to intense questioning.
If Zaid al-Hili was living in France, he would have been interrogated and probably taken into custody because that's a technique we use. Whatever one may think of it, in the UK it's more tricky. There are procedural risks to consider, so it hasn't been done. Simply because we have to respect the legislation of the country we investigate.
Le conflit autour de l'héritage des deux frères.
The conflict surrounding the two brothers' inheritance is quite ordinary. Now the question that everyone is asking themselves is, could this ordinary situation justify the killing? We still don't have the answer to that question.
Eric Mayo's investigation into Zaid al-Hili has so far reached a dead end, and there is nothing to suggest that Zaid had any involvement with his brother's murder. The only concrete evidence the French inquiry currently has to work with are the 21 shell casings and fragments of the killer's gun recovered at the crime scene.
What is certain is that when the killer tried to finish off the little girl by smashing her skull, he left behind some traces of a firearm on her wounds. We now know that this firearm is a very particular gun. It's completely obsolete, a collector's piece.
Bernard Sterner is a vintage firearm collector and owner of a local firing range.
The weapon is an antique, but still the most beautiful firearm in the world. Because of its functioning, its precision and its beauty. And it's so easy to handle. Look,
The weapon used by the killer has been identified as a Luger-type Swiss Waffenfabrik P06. This pistol was standard issue in the Swiss Army for nearly half a century, and many are still in circulation.
Swiss nationals sold these guns freely to everyone, including to foreigners. Or the bloke might have been lent the pistol, or it was his own. Then he went and bought some bullets that you can still find in stock.
Ballistic experts searched through Sterner's boxes of spent shells, but none match those recovered from the crime scene.
It's a little bit like trying to find a needle in a haystack. We've already matched the weapon with all the firearms that have been stolen in the last 2 years, but as yet this hasn't led anywhere.
Journalist Jean-Marc Ducos believes the choice of gun and the way it was used could reveal information about the killer.
The killer's profile is without doubt someone who is experienced with firearms, as he's using an antique pistol that needs reloading. Though I wouldn't go as far as to say he is a professional. He also fired many times, and that shows a disorganized side. A professional killer just needs 1, 2, 3 shots to kill. It looks like we are dealing here with someone in a panic, which would not be the case for a professional hitman.
From other people I've spoken to, a number of them speculate as to whether this was just the work of some random lunatic or a mugging carried out by somebody with a very nervous disposition, and that it just went horribly wrong. That is the conclusion that one is tempted to draw, because the notion of a pre-planned hit being carried out in that fashion just doesn't seem to add up.
Forensic experts have yet to determine if the murders were the random act of a psychopath. Eric Maillot favours the idea of an international contract killing.
I think it's only in films that a contract killer comes over from Australia, China or wherever with a plastic weapon hidden in a tube of toothpaste and risks going through all the airport security checks. Is it too far-fetched to suppose that a hitman contracted to kill a whole family would source a firearm locally? Is that weird? Of course not. So it doesn't mean that because the firearm